in the first 6 years. The primary focus there is intellectual development, or can I say intellectual capacity development. It's creating the space for intellect, alright? That's in the first 6 years. Then from 6 to 12, so from 6 to 12 there is the next season, and it's called the Father Impact Season. And we will explain it in a few minutes exactly, but what you have to get in your mind is the first 6 years, mother primary, but father very much needed to validate the role and the voice of the mother. Then the role flips over between 6 and 12, and the primary voice is that of the father now, and the mother should know and understand it because she now needs to validate the voice of the father. Alright, the second season. And then we sit with this season from 12 to 18 years, which we call the peer impact years. So this is where the voice of the friends, the voice of the group at school, the youth group, you know, the outside voice becomes so strong, and they want that voice. And we are created by design to grow in these years, to grow socially. How to understand and how to navigate socially. So it's so important for a child to live through those years and grow through those years. And we'll explain that now. Then the next season is between 18 and 21 years. So this is again a chance for the dad to step into the child's life more than ever, to now set the child up for the following seasons that we will show you now. Because from 21 to 23, 24, 25, when they step out all by themselves after training, they have to choose culture. And then they have to be set up to choose the right culture. So important. I just had a conversation there with my friend, and we spoke about his life. Your name again? Just Nikhil, yeah. I spoke with Nikhil, and how his life journeyed from 6 years of age through teenage years. So many voices. And at the age of 19 to 21, when he was in his final years of his bachelor's degree, he had to make a decision. What culture will I choose? And this was in terms of religion, Hinduism, Buddha, Muslim or Christianity, and what happened to him. But do you understand, Nikhil, the building up in all these seasons to that day really played a big factor eventually to make your decision because of your dad. Is that true? Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to start with this picture. This is a term called epigenetics. So let's not go into the detail of epigenetics, but what it says is, even before a man and a woman comes together, before any child is formed through conception, there is things that happen. There are specific habits, experiences of a human being that leaves a marker on the human being's genes. You get that? So the way I live leaves like a stamp in my being. So when a husband and a wife comes together, I have specific markers in my build-up, or my makeup. She has specific markers. When they come together, it stamps specific genetic markers on the new formed child that will be carried forward into generations. That's why we read in Exodus and we read in Deuteronomy that the sins of the fathers will visit until the 4th generation. You see, because certain things will carry over. Why do we tell this to you? We have to tell young people, it's not okay to say, I'll sort out my life once I'm married. It is not okay to say, I'll sort out my life once I get my first child. It is far better to sort out your life, to change your way of living, your way of eating, your way of thinking, because your makeup will be transferred into a child that will eventually have an effect on that child's grow up. You all have heard of a thing called alcohol-fetal syndrome. Have you heard of it? So when a mother is addicted to alcohol and she gets the baby, there's specific things that will happen in the body's baby, a syndrome which will inhibit growth. You know that? So for years, they only prove that if a mother drinks, uses excessive alcohol, it will inhibit the growth of the baby. But now through this science, they even say that if the father had a drinking problem, excessive drinking problem, his genes can carry over into the child, and by the father's alcoholic addiction, the baby can be born with alcohol-fetal syndrome, even though he didn't carry the baby. So what we actually just want to say is, the lifestyle of young men has effect on the child to be, the next generation, even before anything happens. So the journey starts very early. But now a husband and a wife come together and the child is formed. So there's a growing of a fetus over 9 months, alright? And a lot of times we ignore the 9 months. Because we say, well, once we see the child, we have a child, and now we want to start to act. But it's a well-proven fact that while the baby is in the womb, that baby... So let me just retract a bit. The moment when conception happens, what happens? God the Father speaks His life into the baby. His spirit. Is that right? His ruach. Neshama. He speaks it in. Okay, and what happens? Because it's God's spirit is immediately adult, mature, understanding everything. So here we have God's spirit and a physical and emotional forming baby slowly, but the spirit is there. Okay, so now we have a baby forming in the womb of a mother, but because the spirit is alive, from the very first day, certain things that happen outside the mother's womb, outside in the world, can be interpreted, can be heard, can be understood by the baby without being fully formed. So in the 90s, they did a research and they proven the following. They took a smoking mother, a mother that uses cigarettes, and they tested the heart rate of a baby, the fetus in the body, while the mother was smoking. So they took the mother's heart rate, they took the baby's heart rate, and they came to a conclusion, if mother smokes, what happens to the heart rate of the baby? Because we think that the baby obviously gets the smoke in or whatever. So then they did the following. They took a mother, they didn't give her cigarettes, nothing to smoke, they put her in a room, and on the screen they put pictures of someone smoking. And all the mother could do was to think and to want the cigarettes. And they did the test on her heart rate and they did the test on the baby's heart rate. You know what the conclusion is? Just the things that the mother sees, that the mother thinks, her emotional atmosphere in that moment transfers to the baby, and the baby can feel it 100%. They also they've proven through hypnosis. So in the medical science they use hypnosis, and I know in church worlds we're not always for it, but a lot of times against it, and that's not the discussion. What discussion is that through hypnosis they've proven that as far back as three months before birth, that a baby could even tell exactly where the father stood in the room in specific moments, because of the attachment between baby and mother. In our own counseling department in our church, we run quite a big counseling department. My wife heads it up. She's the facilitator. We had this story. So we had a mature adult man, and every single year, from a specific age in his life, more or less in the beginning of winter, in May, in our country, winter starts in May month. So then he would start to fall in a sort of a depression, and it will end up in thoughts of suicide. He wanted to take his own life. So we started with an inner healing process, started asking questions, started to go with the Holy Spirit and see what this was. And it took us back through conversation with the parents that we found the following. When this man was still in the womb of the mother, the husband, the dad, and the mother had a business. And the business went spiraling downwards, and in the month of May, while he was still in the womb, they lost the business. They had conversations saying, hey, this is not the right season to have this boy. We don't have money. This is the wrong season, it's going to be difficult because we're losing the business. This young baby, unborn baby, heard and experienced this. The baby made decisions saying, I am not welcome in life. I'm going to be a stumbling block to them. They don't have money, I'm going to take money. And the baby turned against life and said, I don't want to be there. So the baby was born and he grew up with this woundedness inside. So when we got to that, we got the parents, they repented, the baby repented towards God, agreed on life again. Well, this adult man, everything disappeared. Why do I tell you these stories? So that you know when we speak about the human being, when we speak about children, the journey starts before conception. It goes all the way through the 9 months in the womb, and then the day of birth, it gets really exciting. You get that? In our training, in our country, we see now in about the last 10 months, 12 months that more and more young men not married yet are jumping into the training. My training, I'm doing currently a year-long training. I find that more than 70% of the guys sitting in that room are not trained yet because of these facts. They want to know what to do before they even get children. You get that? So as church leaders, we have to get this out there. We have to say, it's not just for fathers, it's not just for leaders. The leaders should mobilize people to come to the young people and say, hey, you have to get this right long before you even get a wife. Is that fine? Alright, so, epigenetics. Now the child is born, so, born and now, so we go from 0 to 1, the first year in the baby's life. So, how many of you have children? Just put up your hand. Is there anybody? Yeah, so most have children. Anybody have young children? Maybe younger than 1 year at this stage, a baby? Babies. Anybody with a pregnant mother at home in the womb? Yes. Okay, so just get this picture. So the baby is born, and now in the first year, you have to get this right. The focus in the first 2 years, actually the first 5, but very intensively in the first year, is all about intimacy. This intimate connection between mother and child is vital. We've got a term that we call the mother bond. There should be a strong bond physically, emotionally and spiritually between mother and child, and that is mostly formed in the first moments, actually from the childbirth process in the first 2 years. Vital. So while a mother gives birth, certain hormones in her brain is secreted. One of those are called oxytocin, which is a bonding neurotransmitter. So in the process of laboring, this hormones are secreted from the mother and from the baby. And what happens is, because it's a bonding neurotransmitter, they connect, they form a strong bond. And by the end of the laboring process, there's already a strong established bond between mother and child. And then comes the next step, and it should normally be breastfeeding, but a lot of times lately we find bottle feeding. But here's the big thing. While a mother breastfeeds a child, two things happen. Because there's close contact, there's a lot of times eye contact, there's skin to skin contact, there's chest to chest contact. What happens? The neurotransmitter oxytocin is once again secreted. So in the togetherness, the bond is formed. And as we do this through the days in the first year and the second year, what happens? The mother bond is formed. And the strong sense of bond between mother and father, mother and child, forms a sense of intimacy, this closeness, which you will later see becomes a vital thing later in life. Kasi will explain that to us. So, vital. What is the role of a father in this? If the father knows that the bond of mother and child is vital, what is your role? You should do whatever you can to create a space in the home, to create time in the home for mother and child to spend as much as possible time together in bonding, in nurturing, in cuddling, and being together without a lot of stress. Great atmosphere, emotional stability. You get that? So this is my role of a father, the young father with young child, the to-be fathers, you know. You create the space for mother to be able to do this. So they grow up in this year. The voice of the father is vital. So it's the mother being close to the child, but the father should also be there. The father should also help changing nappies. The father should also speak. The baby wants to hear the voice. But the father should validate the role of the mother, creating space for the mother to be there. I can quickly just tell you a quick story about my own daughter. Some things happened in the birth of our first child. So in the very first moments, the hospital swapped babies around, and the wrong baby came to my wife. Fortunately for me, I followed the baby, and by the time the baby came to my wife, I saw, but it's not the same one that I saw on birth. And I went to the doctors, I said, no, I followed my baby. Look at this, look at the skin color. This is, because I'm a little bit more dark than Cassie. So I see, and there was a very white one and a darker one, and I said, but this is my child. They swapped the baby around. So in the first moments of our first child, the bond was separated. Because the first moment, another mother got the baby. And then my wife fell into some sort of a syndrome, almost like a postnatal depression kind of thing, and for about 2 weeks there was no bond between mother and child. I was there, but the mother wasn't there. She did breastfeed, but she couldn't handle the moment. So So we carried on, and later, when my child turned 10 years old, one day she stood up, she said to us, Mommy, Daddy, I don't want to be alone. We said, why? She said, every time I'm alone, I am pestered with suicidal thoughts. My 10-year-old daughter, happy daughter, she said, I see blood, I see in my mind how I can kill myself. I always see blood. And we couldn't understand why. So we went to someone that can help us. We prayed through, we looked, and the Lord showed us back into those moments, said the mother bond was broken. And because of this, a whole lot of things happened, and now we have a young daughter that's supposed to go almost into teenage years, peer group years, and she feels so alone. And we started praying into that. We started with counseling. Today she's 18 years old. She's totally stable. She's a wonderful, wonderful social teenager. But where did it happen? It happened in those first years. Okay, so the first year, you remember, intimacy, intimacy, intimacy. Breastfeeding, great nutrition. Make sure if the baby, if it's not breastfeeding, what formula milk you're going to use. Make sure that because the baby needs good nutrition, the mother eats well. It is vital to have that. And then obviously the emotional atmosphere of the home, the loving environment should be facilitated by the father. You come back from work, what do? How do you facilitate the moments when you come in to keep mother up there so that she can have utmost connection with the baby? It's vital. So now the baby grows into year 2, and 2 and 3, from 1, 2 and 3, sort of the same season here, because now the baby comes to a place where he or she starts to crawl, number one. So they don't sit in one space, they move around. So the moment they can move around, what do? They explore. They're starting to develop, and the clever guys say entrepreneurial skills, to be great in initiative and pursuing new things, is formed in the years 2 to 4, when the baby starts to explore. Alright, so what do we do as parents? The moment they start to crawl and they start to walk, we try to keep them in, because we just want someone that sits in one place. And if we see a child running around and pulling, and a lot of times we think they're naughty. They're not naughty, they're normal. And we should facilitate that, because this is a time of exploration. Take a note. When the baby starts to crawl, never stop the crawling season. Never rush the crawling season. If your baby crawls for 18 months, it's great, because it's absolutely essential for the development, of the brain, the crawling. So a lot of times we want them to walk quickly because we want to boast and say, my child can walk. No. They will come to a place where they walk. Remember now, when they start to walk, when they start to pull on things, when they start to look at things, don't stop, don't scream. Rather step into that moment and facilitate. So when your baby comes and a small child touches the thin paper of the Bible, they want to know what this is. Rather take the Bible, take the baby, say, the young one, feel, this is a thin page. Feel it, touch it. This is the Bible. Don't tear it. Or have a conversation with this child, because this child wants to. Now you develop the brain through exploring. It is vital. In the ages from 2 to 3, they start to develop into a place where they want to make decisions. You see, they want to make decisions, because this is a time of uncertainty or certainty. So they want to feel that they're certain in life. They actually can make decisions. So a vital thing for parents is to understand that between 2 and 3, we have to start giving them, and actually to 4, small decision-making moments. So in the morning before school, what do? We take out, the mother take out 1, 2, 3 shirts, 2 pairs of shoes or whatever, and make the 2-year-old or 3-year-old choose. Say, choose a shirt, choose a short, choose your shoes. And then leave it at the child. So we form the decision making. We make them feel they have the right to choose. Because a lot of guys, adults, even leaders, battle to make decisions. Have you seen that? Leaders in your own community, they cannot make decisions. Why? It was never formed in early ages. Vitally important. Alright. So then they go from so important thing, very important thing. When it comes to the digital, the technology, there's a no-go zone of 2 years for every single child. So yes, we are using this as electronic nannies, but research shows that we should be very strong on it to keep our children from any digital contact up to the age of 2 years, 24 months. Because it has a very adverse effect on the development of the brain. Most of what a baby learns in those years are what they see at the parents and what they hear from the parents. And if you just connect it to digital formats, they don't get the physical contact, they don't see the example, and they just follow. And then I don't even go into the neuroscience of it all. So please, write it in your manuals. No digital devices for the first 2 years. It is vital. Okay. So from 3 to 4, thereabout, it's all about industry or inferiority. Does this child feel safe to step out and be there? So it's all about understanding that I can do certain things and I'm fine to do certain things. So they want to do and then hear from someone that it is fine. So it is vital in these times for the dad to go to the young boy in the morning, okay? And to say, hey boy, let's make your bed. So the young boy of 3, 3.5 cannot really make a big bed, but we can help him. So we go around, we tuck in the sheet, we tuck in the duvet, put the pillows, and at the end, let the little boy just touch and tuck in the corner, pull it straight. So we see a nicely made bed. What do? We call mommy. Say, hey mom, come look here, look what our son did. So mommy comes in and sees the bed and she says, my boy, did you make the bed? And daddy says, yes mommy, he made the bed. You see? Did he make the whole bed? No. Did he do a little bit? Yes. The moment I affirm that little bit, I give him the sense of certainty that he can do certain things. Vital for development for children. So ages 3 to 4, this is really, really vital. The other thing is the fine motor skills in the brain is developed in these years. So what is important? For mother and for father to play a lot of games with them and make them do certain things. Like for instance, they have to play with dough, with their fingers. As a young child, if they want to touch their food and press the food and smear the food, this is a way of developing. They feel, they taste, they develop. They have to build puzzles. They have to draw pictures. You have to let them get a scissor and cut paper. We have to be there in those moments because this is developing them in a very, very, very strong sense. Okay, I just want to see this slide quickly. This is a brain of a little child, and the brain development in literally in the first year, or the first 14 months of a child. So that is at birth. Okay, that's the brain at birth. That is the brain at 3 months. That's the brain at 7 months. And this is the brain at 14 months. This is how quickly the brain develops when they're very young. And one of the primary things in those years is, what did I just tell you? Intimacy. The connection of mother with child. So if you don't have the utmost focus on connection, the intimacy, the nurturing, you lose a lot of what needs to happen in these years. I want to show you another one. This is a typical brain of a child that was deprived of nurture and care. So this is a child in an institution, this one. So this baby in the first 2 years of her life had no physical contact, had no mother because she was in a child care institution, like in an orphanage. So what happens? You see that part's there? No brain development. This is the brain of a healthy child with mother and father and a lot of nurture and care. Look at the development there and there. You see the difference? All by connection. So this one here is an abused brain, okay? So no nurture, no care, but also a lot of negativity in the home. In other words, emotional abuse, probably physical abuse. So what happens? If your environment in your home is toxic, so dad is always fighting with mother and abusing mother, and mother cannot step in to care for the child, what happens? A neurotransmitter called cortisol will be secreted in the brain, because cortisol is now secreted to defend the baby from hurt. Okay? But the same thing, while the brain is defending the baby to turn away from the hurt and press it down, what happens? cortisol is inhibiting growth and development of the brain. So on the one side, God created if you in that moment to protect you with that neurotransmitter, but if we keep it there and if we keep the environment toxic, the brain won't develop. So it's so vital to get this right and to understand it. Show you this graph. This is a developmental graph of a child in the first 7 years of their life. You see that 7 years? Look at year 3, 3.5. You see this is high developmental. Look at the curves, very high, very high, very high, really peaking there. If we draw it down, 3.5 years of age. This is the first block of life with the most potential to develop a child. First 3.5 years of a child. Vital. Look at the things that will be developed. The skill for numbers, you know, peer social skills, to connect to friends in a social environment in the first 3.5 years of their lives. Conceptualization, language. I mean, right in the beginning, look at the language one there, that one there. Right in the beginning, in the first 2 months, they don't even know one word. But yet, the capacity for language is formed by what they hear and what they see mother is doing with them, the closeness. So all we want to say to you is, hearing, vision, emotional control, everything in a child is formed in the first 3.5 years. It's so vital for mother to be there, for father to create spaces for mother to do this. If you look at that, so it says your start determines your trajectory. So in other words, the way you set up your child from the first day, actually, the way you set up your child from conception to birth, and then from the first day to 3.5 years, will set them up for a specific, you know, aim in life. So look at this. If I don't do it right from conception, I set them up for a bottom line trajectory. So about 60% of all children will grow up and live on this line. But there is the top line. This is a good start. This is if we understand how to work with our children. Look where they will end eventually. And look where these children will end. And it's all formed in the beginning. To get the perception right in the minds of parents to say, we have it in our hands to set up our children for more. So if we get all this right, what happens? I mean, we set up great potential. We set up leaders. We counter things like poverty. Because if we look at the statistics, how many people that are set up on this line ends up in poverty? But how many children, when they set up and with the right building blocks in the first 3.5 years, end up and they can provide for themselves and make an impact in communities? I want you just to get this part. If I am set up as a human being, my child or you sitting here, and you in the bottom line, you won't just jump to the top line because you just hope so. You will only jump if there's a real intervention in your life. So if you sit here and you get it and you see, but I've missed it in the first 3.5 years, there can be intervention through prayer, through forgiveness. If you sit and you say, but I've missed it in my child's life, great intervention will be to go back, and we'll speak about restoring damage later. But with intervention, we can lift people up to a higher line. Probably never again on that line. But this is also true. This line here. I can be on the top line, but if I go through adverse trauma and difficult moments in life, it might drop me from the top line to a bottom line. And we have to get there. Then we have to work hard with those individuals to lift them up. Because we can slowly but surely lift them up. We cannot just ignore them in life. You get that? So let me go back. So first 3.5 years very important. Year 4, I just explained to you industry, inferiority, a certainty of the certainty of a child to be able to go and say, I can, vital from mother and father. But then in year 5 is the time where mother now should get the child ready, because in the next season from 5 to 6, this child will step from the embrace of mother and will be lifted to the shoulders of father. Because the season, as I said to you, first 6 years, mother, next 6 years, father. So imagine now, the greatest and the strongest bond between mother and child first 6 years was always mother, child, mother, child. Now we say, but dad needs to become the primary and the strongest voice. So mother has got a great job in year 5 to prepare the child to start, not to disconnect, but to release mother and grab onto father. So this is why strengths are so vital. So now, mother and father start to see and to try and recognize the basic competencies or strengths of the child that you already see. I can see this child can play a ball. I can see this child can sing. I see this child just serves the brothers and the sisters in the house. So I look for a skill, a strength, and I start to speak into that. So mother needs to see it. She needs to recognize it. And she now needs to call daddy and say, Dad, look at son, look at what he can do. So she recognizes and she connects the son or the daughter with father, and father starts to play games. This is now outside games to develop all those skills. So very strong in year 3, 4 is all the small motor skills, cutting, building puzzle, playing dough. But 4 to 5, this is still important, but now I want to play outside. I want to jump, I want to run. I want to kick a ball and catch a ball and throw a ball, and whatever you do to develop the gross motor skills, but also to develop this basic strength of this child. Because in year 6, when this child will go from mother to father, it is all about a new time when father's voice will now develop this son's or this daughter's strengths in life and to grow them slowly to become mature. So this is a setting up time of mother to release this child into father's hands. Alright, so at about 6 years old, an important thing happens. A child derives their picture of Father God from their earthly father. Alright, so an interesting discussion between me and you, Nikhil, about in the years that your father accepted Jesus, you were about 6 years old. 7 years old. And a very specific thing was formed in your mind, because when you entered Culture Boys, you made a decision for Jesus. But the reason was the time that your dad grabbed onto Jesus was the time when you had to conceptualize a picture of God. It's a wonderful story that you told us. So our children sees God the way they see us, the age from 6 to 8. So if you're a disconnected father, or a disconnected leader, or whatever, if you're not there, if you're absent-minded, if you're very strict, if you're abusive, the child will develop a picture of Father God in the same lines. So we are busy setting up destiny, spiritual destiny in our children at the age of 6 by the way we do life with them, what they experience. That is vital. So all the guys, children younger than 6, just put up your hands. Younger than 6. The way you're treating mother now, the way you're treating the child now is literally defining, writing the definition of the picture of Father God in their systems by the way you're doing today. So, important. Yes? Yes. Okay. So you guys have your partners. So let us just stop for a moment, because I'm running ahead, we're trying to catch time, but we might just miss this. I think the question that I want to ask you quickly is, think back of what you know of your own life. Try to think where your parents missed this, because this will set you up for later in the session. But also try and think where you are missing it with your own child, probably, at this stage. Maybe this last question will be great. What picture do you have, your child have of God? Let's give you about 5 minutes and just have a discussion. Is that fine? Turn to your friends and have a discussion.